The Leichter Panzerspähwagen, or Light Armored Reconnaissance Vehicle. 4 versions of this vehicle were produced by Nazi Germany from 1935 to 1944, with around 2,400 units built. The vehicles are easy to distinguish by their significant use of sloped armor. Today, very few authentic examples of the car exist, but the vehicle has still been made famous in the movies by several mock-ups. Usually these vehicles are trucks or Range Rovers with angled plates attached. The more authentic-looking mock-ups attempt to move the engine towards the rear and place the driver more forward, as the authentic cars had rear-mounted engines on all variants. These armored cars in the movies are sometimes shown in the thick of action, charging head-on into battle. In reality, these vehicles are meant as scout and reconnaissance vehicles, with their armaments used more defensively. These vehicles are designed to scout out ahead of an army and report back the position and strength of enemy forces. Underscoring the importance of avoiding direct combat is the wafer-thin armor of the vehicle. Armor ranged from 5 mm to its thickest at the front at 8 mm. This armor, though sloped, was still thin enough that at close ranges it could be penetrated by rifle rounds. In 1939, the frontal armor was upgraded to 14.5 mm, with some later war versions receiving 30 mm of frontal armor. Thin armor has several advantages for a scout car. Firstly, it made production quicker and less expensive. Even the turret top had 2 folding wire mesh panels over conventional armor. These were to prevent enemy grenades from entering the vehicle, with the obvious hope the grenades bounced off the mesh. Thin armor also made the vehicle light, essential for the small engine. The 222 version, that's the one with the cannon, weighs 4,000 kilograms or 8,800 pounds, about half the weight of an American Greyhound armored car. The rear-mounted petrol engine was originally a 3.5-liter V8, producing 74 horsepower. From 1942 onwards, this was replaced by a 3.8-liter, producing 89 horsepower, giving it a road speed of 80 kilometers an hour or 50 miles per hour, with speeds about half that cross-country. The vehicle had a maximum range of 300 kilometers or 186 miles. Armament for the first variant, the 221, was a 7.92mm MG-13 machine gun, which in 1938 was replaced by the more recognizable MG-34. The gunner had access to 1,200 rounds. The vehicle was crewed by 2, with the commander acting as the gunner, and the driver sitting in front of him. Production of the 221 ran from 1935 to 1940, with some 339 units produced. Originally, these vehicles had no radios, but as they became obsolete during the war, they would be heavily modified, some acting as command cars with different radios installed. In 1941, a small short-range radio could be installed in every variant of the car, though with a short range of about 1 kilometer. Some 221s were further upgunned with a 2.8cm anti-tank gun in a modified turret. The 222 variant had a larger turret and mounted a 2cm KWK-30 or KWK-38 autocannon found on Panzer IIs. The autocannon was mounted along with an MG-13 or MG-34 machine gun. This larger variant now crewed 3 men. Production of the 222 ran from 1937 to 1943, with at least 990 units produced.
Toot your tutors, if you understand.
The 223 variant was armed with just a machine gun, either an MG-13 or MG-34, but instead of a cannon, the vehicle used its limited space for radio equipment. These vehicles are easy to recognize by the large bed frame antenna mounted over the vehicle. At least 567 223s were produced. The 260-261 variant mounted no machine guns and was used exclusively for signals use. These also used a large bed frame style antenna over the vehicle. The 260 variant was equipped to communicate via radio with aircraft, and the 261 to communicate with ground units. At least 483 of this variant were produced. The turret for the vehicle is unusual in that it directly sits on the gun mount. As such, there is no bearing ring or turret basket. Rather than the gun traversing with the turret is rotated by traversing the gun. The breeches took up a lot of room in the turret, but the gun mount did allow for good elevation of the guns, suitable for anti-aircraft fire. There were also vision slots on the sides of the turret to allow the commander and/or gunner to observe his surroundings with some protection. The crew could enter and exit through the open top of the turret, though the turret was cramped. There is further 2 large hatches in the lower section of the hull. Early in the war, armored cars were assigned to panzer, motorized, and regular infantry divisions. However, they are rare amongst all but panzer divisions. A panzer division tank reconnaissance battalion could field up to 90 armored cars, divided into 2 armored car companies. These armored cars were present for all of Germany's early successes, including the annexation of Austria and the German occupation of Czechoslovakia. The vehicles first engaged in combat in Poland in 1939. Here, during the first year of the war, the armored car would experience its first glaring shortcomings, notably the armor, which was easily penetrated by Polish anti-tank guns. They would continue to see use in the invasion of Denmark and Norway. Then in May of 1940, a few hundred took part in the invasion of France, where they were better put to use aiding tanks in the rapid mobile warfare that would define Germany's victory over France. During the invasion of the Soviet Union, this German armored car in all variants struggled. Though the vehicle was four-wheel drive, its off-road performance was weak compared to other German light armored vehicles equipped with tracks. Tracks became essential for cross-country operations in the muddy conditions of the East. The Soviets also used anti-tank guns in greater numbers than any other nation, which made short work of armored cars. At the introduction of the 221 in 1935, the car would seemingly make a good all-round scout car. By 1940, the car's engine was lacking in power, the armor was too thin, the off-road performance was meager, but it was still a purpose-built and reliable tool if used within its limitations. Germany struggled with mechanization for the entire war, and always found a purpose for this 4x4 light armored car. One strength of these light armored cars is that they were part of the Wehrmacht's new program to standardize production that would see some 60,000 four-wheel drive vehicles built on uniform chassis. Before 1936, the majority of Wehrmacht cars were militarized civilian cars that were both expensive to produce and unfit for wartime service. These light armored reconnaissance vehicles were part of this first and semi-successful German attempt to standardize military vehicle production, and overall were a good initial product. Even China purchased a handful from Germany in the 1930s for use against Japan. Furthermore, the car helped prove the effectiveness of angled armor. Alright, I'm Johnny, thank you for watching. Who says 90-degree angles are always right angles? I personally favor the acute angles of this armored car. Anyway, if you thought the video wasn't too obtuse, hit the like button, and do take care, and have a nice rest of your day.